See, this PC right here was ordered on the Hardware Money Shop. It's a Lenovo ThinkStation P330 decent workstation. The buyer did say, look, I want this PC shipped with a 512 gigabytes of NVMe SSD, which is fair enough because, come think of it, in this day and age, NVMe SSD pretty much is the standard of things. This is where people want to roll. But as if that was not enough, the buyer said, see, I also want this PC, shipped with a 1 terabyte of HDD hard drive. When I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, do people still pretty much need, HDDs on decent machines like this? This is supposed to be one solid machine that has the possibility for 2 NVMe SSDs. They are compartment for you. If you feel you want to go ahead and install additional SATA SSDs, you can pretty much do that because this PC has made it possible. So I was beginning to think, who is still, thinking in this day and age of actually having a beautiful PC like this, mounted with a HDD hard drive? And I did go onto the internet to see why this is still so, and I was shocked to see that the HDDs, they are not going anywhere. It doesn't matter if they've been around for a very, very long time. There is pretty much a healthy reasons why the HDDs will still continue to be with us. And the reasons, of course, is not far-fetched. Everything still pretty much boils down to price, money. People do not have money. A comparable 10 terabyte of HDD hard drives now is so cheap that you are going to be tempted. Why should I buy an SSD so expensive if all I have to do is just to store, my data? If speed is not my consideration, I am not saying that my write speed or my read speed should be as fast as possible. All I want to do is just to make sure that I have some large data backed up somewhere. This is the thing. People will still continue to look in the direction of the HDDs. Even though the SSDs are becoming cheaper, the HDDs are still going to be much more cheaper than the SSDs. It's just kind of a symbiotic relationship. The more the SSDs decide to be cheaper, the HDD are going to say, look, I also have a way of getting even more cheaper, and this will continue to pique people's interest. The cost per terabyte of HDDs are still significantly more cheaper than SSD. You can see this easily if you go onto Amazon, which is pretty much one of the websites where everything goes down. You try to search for a 10 terabyte of HDD, you're going to be shocked because the price that you're going to be seeing is going to be comparably cheaper than its SSD counterpart. And as a matter of fact, not only that these things are cheaper, the HDDs, even though people have a bias towards them, they still can hold on in massive workloads. If you have a station where all you have to do is write all day long, the HDDs are still able to handle this workload in a way that's still very much cost effective than the way that SSDs will handle them. Because of that, they are still going to be very interesting to the cloud storage providers, to enterprises, and I've even seen a lot of NAS storage entirely built on HDDs. Of course, in this setup, speeds are not of the essence. Once again, if you want to do this, you are pretty much going to be sure that, look, speed is not a critical thing that you require in your setup. If you have zeroed that out, then you can pretty much knock yourself out, build your entire NAS storage just using HDD hard drives, and you are definitely going to be enjoying a significant cost benefit. And one thing I did find out was that, look, the manufacturing of HDD has pretty much been set up. There are plants that are still dedicated to manufacturing these things. It just makes no sense to begin to close this plant right now, especially in a situation where the demand for these HDDs are pretty much there. If you go onto Amazon, to eBay, to the Hardware Money Shop, where these things are being sold, people are still demanding the HDDs. It's going nowhere, especially in times like this where the income levels of consumers have significantly been degraded. So the demand of HDDs is still continually being on an all-time high. It's not going to be reduced. And even right now, cheap and affordable laptops, desktop PCs are still being shipped with HDD hard drives. Of course, I'm pretty much referring to consumer-grade laptops, pre-built desktop PCs. But then, if the price of SSD still stays the same, there's definitely going to be need for HDDs as cheap backup solutions. Once again, if speed is not of the essence, I see no reason why you cannot consider using a HDD like this as a very, very cheap source of storage. But then I want to imagine that in the nearest future, say 2030, HDDs are going to be obsolete. You are not going to be able to find them anymore in consumer laptops because at this time, with the falling rate of SSD drives, these things right here are definitely going to be obsolete. You are going to be seeing them on clearance bins, legacy systems, and pretty much as external drives. But to find them in desktop PCs like this, I want to imagine that this is not going to be the case because in this time, newer storage techs like the DNA storage or even the glass storage will be so competitive that no one will even think of having a HDD. But right now, it's still so expensive. It is what it is. When people do not have money to go the way of, glass storage or DNA storage, given the fact that this is still pretty much, early on, HDDs are still going to remain, with us. But then there are people that you can pretty much refer to as, backup enthusiasts. And these people, they are pretty much like the collectors. They are still going to continue to stick with the old technology, which is the HDD that you have right here. And I feel that these people are still going to continue to use this thing in 2030 and even beyond. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you still have a HDD installed on your PC? And if you do, are you thinking of changing it anytime soon? What do you think? I'm interested to know. Write me in the comment section. Until I see you again in the next one. Peace.